Okay, well, welcome everybody to our post-eclipse webinar. And we're going to tell you a little bit about what we've received and what we're doing, but we thought, as Dar was saying, that we would start by having you all share and share our eclipse experiences regionally. And so we're gonna create 3 different breakout groups and then kind of talk to one another about whether you made it to totality, and if you did, if you were able to take photographs, and if and your experience. So I think what I'd like to do is I think we'll have one of us go into each region. Hannah, you can go into the eastern region. I'll be in the Texas region. Dar can be in the Texas region. I mean the Mexico region. So basically, yes, if you were in the if you went to Mexico, then you'll hang out with Dar. And maybe we can just go around each breakout room and just have people talk for a few minutes, or just 1 minute, I think. Will be plenty.
Right.
Okay, and then I'll have anyone who is from Texas up to like Indianapolis, and then north, and then Hannah will take folks from Indianapolis and north. So if you were in Indianapolis, you should go with Hannah. If you're south of Indianapolis, you should go with me. And Dar is going to make our breakout rooms. And
Yep.
so down at the bottom of your screen, you should, when those launch, you will see, oh yeah, maybe they're there. You'll see breakout room option, and we'll have Mexico be number 1, and Texas through Indianapolis be number 2, and then the East Coast will be number 3. All right, are there any questions about that?
Give us an end time, Laura, so we know to keep an eye on the clock.
Yeah, let's do 15 minutes. So
Okay.
that makes 5:20 our time.
Okay, see y'all soon. Can't wait to hear the stories.
Are there any questions? I'll stay here and just make sure.
Okay, Jason, just keeping an eye on everyone. I want to make sure everyone chooses a room before we start talking.
Sounds good.
Hey, hello.
Hi, Darlene.
Hi, nice to see you. Okay, I think there's still a few more undesignated people, but they may wander in later. So we'll just let them join. Um, okay. Well, it might just be the three of us, actually, just looking at the names. I don't see any other Mexico folks on the call today. Okay, well, that's sharing some battle stories. For folks, well, I know everybody, so that's not quite fair. So let's each introduce ourselves and say where we were, and then we can go in turn and share our stories, and then we can just also just rehash in general, you know, what it was like to be the global viewers of the eclipse. So I can start. So I'm Darlene. Nice to see you all again. I was in Mazatlan. I was on the beach. I really wanted to be first landfall of the shadow, and I ended up having a great public outreach experience where everyone just ended up crowding around me because of all the NASA gear. And of course, you know, when you have a camera like that and a mount like that, everyone's coming around you. And I have, you know, broken Spanish, and I did my best to try to explain some like size and scale and things like that, and the things that they're going to see. But then all the hotel staff came out, and then their English was so good, they started translating for me. So it turned into this tag team event where they translate. And then I got into like deeper and harder science. And there was just, the beach was so crowded. I mean, hundreds of people, all generations. Mariachi was playing. I mean, it was fantastic. The parasailers were going until like the very last second. Um, I had set up all of my equipment, worked really, really well, except during totality when C2 hit, I forgot to take off my solar filter. I unscrewed it 30 seconds before, was ready for it, had everything else ready, was doing the countdown, yelling at everybody, and then, you know, glasses off, and then just completely forgot because everyone was screaming and dancing and crying. And oh, it was so insane. And the 4 minutes 15 just went by so fast. And yeah, I just remember the screams when everyone saw the prominences come out, you know, after, I don't know what that was, maybe about a minute or so in, and just having to explain what that was, like that was, wow, just remarkable. And yeah, absolutely. People were in tears, people were shaking, people were hugging each other, you know, random strangers. It was really something. A grandma and a little boy were just like clutching each other and just like awe and everything. So of course I didn't find out. I didn't take off my solar filter until later when I was going to take my calibration photos, and then I was like, oh. So yes, no Megamovie scientific photos for me. But I got a lot of glasses out there, and I feel like I got a lot of science and a lot of just interest out there. Yeah. Yeah. So that was my story. Jason, do you want to go next?
Sure. Yeah, I was in Mazatlan as well. I was up on the hill with the big radio towers on it. So I was in an Airbnb and they had a rooftop deck. So I had signed up for a couple other locations and then realized that like carrying like 60 pounds of equipment any distance on that day was a really not very smart idea. So instead, I went up one flight of stairs to the roof. There was about 20 people up there. I was a little scared about the weather, but it cleared up enough that we could see stuff. And so I had two cameras that were going. I think I've only uploaded the photos from one of them, and like it was thousands of photos between the two of them. And so I think they're supposed to open that up later this month. So hopefully I'll upload the other one. But had a setup to do wide angle stuff that I was excited about, but it would have just been clouds. So luckily, my buddy was with me, so between the two of us, we did get all of the filters off. So that was good. But yeah, it was a great experience. I'm glad I went down there. I'd seen the 2017 one in Kentucky, so this was a little bit more, a little bit of a fancier location. But yeah, it was a good trip all around.
Go on. It was definitely scary. The clouds still past C1. I still couldn't focus my DSLR, even though I was out there since the morning. Just waiting and waiting and just like, oh gosh, is this ever gonna happen? But yeah, I managed to get the focus in time. But oh, I'm excited. Okay, that's a good number of photos. That's gonna be excellent. Okay. All right, Franz, do you want to go next?
Yes. Hi, Darlene. Hi, Jason. So what we did, me and my wife, was truly chase the eclipse, like based on cloud cover forecasts. and I was looking like at 12 different sites and models or whatever, until we ended up in the Durango Sierra. So that would have been between, let's say, Torreon, which NASA had a lot of activity there, and Mazatlan, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And that was because based on the late models on Sunday, that was the best spot.
Mm.
And I kept rechecking and rechecking into the night and even the actual Monday morning. So when we got there to the site, we didn't really have a place where to, but we figured out we just found out right there that there was some cabins. So we decided to rent a cabin, for half the day, whatever. We got in there, we started set up the equipment, just like Jason was saying. We couldn't move the boxes I wanted 3 cameras going. Um, and However, already the eclipse had started. I think
Mm.
we were 5 or 10 minutes into the eclipse, and I was eyeing at a distance some smoke
Mm.
and trying to not pay attention, but it was impossible to not pay attention because the smoke kept growing and growing. And then about maybe 15 minutes into or 20 into the eclipse, it became obvious that this was a forest fire and the thing was coming in our direction. It had still not impacted any photography, but just looking at what was going on, I said, well, this is not gonna work. We're gonna have to pack
Oh.
up and move. And by then, though, some other, folks that were there in the cabin saw us with equipment, asked a bunch of questions. I gave them some of these, sunglasses to look at the solar eclipse, and I explained to them what was happening because they had not much of a clue. I mean, they did know, but they didn't really work. They didn't have any equipment. So they ended up helping us, picking up the stuff, putting it back to the car, and then helping us guide because they were like from around there. And anyway, so we followed them. By then the smoke was all over the place. We were actually in the middle of smoke. And so the decision was the right one. We moved ahead, downwind or upwind, whatever you want. No, upwind, which was where there was no smoke, right? And we left the fire behind us and behind a ravine. So there was no way the fire was going to catch up to us. And the first spot we could find, we stopped there. By then, the eclipse was probably more than 35 minutes or whatever. Again, unpack, unbox, and set up everything. And there was a moment of panic, but I got at least the main camera and the second camera running, not the third one that I wanted, but at least 2 of them. And that was like 14 minutes before totality. Everything was
Oh.
set up. And trust me, I had timed myself that I needed like an hour and a half. Anyway, the thing went from there on uneventful. I took exactly what I wanted. I had everything printed out in a big sheet, all the exposures, everything, totality, and the Bailey's beads and diamond rings, everything went, and the sky was totally blue. It was
Wow.
unreal because we were at 2,400 meters above sea level, no clouds,
Wow.
nothing.
Wow.
I thought we could actually just reach out and touch the
Right. Just
moon and the sun.
through
It,
the
it
sky.
was
Yeah.
it was it was it was surreal. It was even the light was weird. Ever since we got there in the morning, it was like, what's going on? I couldn't understand. I didn't realize we were at 2,400 meters above sea level that until
Mm-hmm.
later, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that completely improved, the pictures, improved the experience, improved everything.
Wow.
Over 3,000 pictures, considering the darks and the whites and everything. Yeah.
Okay. Franz, did
Yeah.
you catch the 2017 eclipse as well?
No, this was my
Okay.
very first
Oh,
eclipse.
it's your first one.
I had done a dress rehearsal with the annular eclipse
Right.
in October.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought I was not going to make anything. I was not going to succeed on the total eclipse if I didn't have a chance to test my theories and my ideas of how to do it. And of course, eventually, when I learned about this, um, you know, STARS program from you all, from NASA, and so on, it helped me improve by a lot my original plan, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I'm grateful for you all and for the work you did. And I translated those 30 pages of your recommendations into a big sheet that I had a flashlight on, and I
Oh.
was using that to change. But fortunately, my camera was able to take a lot of pictures very quickly and change the exposures up and down. And I think I had the right. In the end, I ended up buying what I had missed, from the original idea, and it worked out exactly as expected. Yeah,
It's amazing.
yeah,
It's amazing. And I don't know about you, Jason. So for me, the 2017 eclipse was my very first in-person eclipse. I had been doing eclipse science and public outreach for, 15 years. I saw every single video. I was like, oh, I know what it looks like. No, but like to feel it in the flesh, right, is just
yeah,
something else.
yeah,
But I don't know about
yes.
you, but this one, I still got the same feeling of the first one of just the thrill and the impact and the chills and like everything, right? It still was the same. It still felt the same. Yeah.
It was amazing.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
it was the same for me. I was with family in 2017, so that was really cool. They kind of drove from places to see, and then this was a totally different experience. But yeah, it was the same kind of thing. Actually, I had a better view, sky wise, because it was pretty cloudy in Mazatlan, but so better view in 2017, but totally different experience. People from
Yeah.
all over and stuff. And yeah, same thing. It felt. I feel like using eclipses as an excuse to just kind of travel all over is there's a reason why a
There
lot of
you
people
go.
do it, right? I mean,
No,
it's yeah.
I know. We immediately hopped on and started looking at 26, 27. We're like, which one is better? Can we manage?
Yeah, 27 in Egypt, I think, is like 6.5 minutes or something.
I
So yeah,
know, I
It is.
know. It would be amazing. Okay, so it's time. I should close the room, but thank you both so much for sharing.
Thank
It was
you.
very
Thank
funny. One
you.
of my really good friends was in Mazatlan, maybe half a block down from my resort, and I still couldn't even meet up with him because we were both so busy just looking up at the sky. So I'm glad that we got to represent Mazatlan. But yeah, it was basically like a very solo experience. I just like went in and like did the thing. Um, but yeah, I feel like. Yeah, we represented. We were like the first leg of the channel across North America. Okay, let me close the room really quick, and then I'll see you guys back in the main room. Give me one sec. All right. Okay, as we let people back in, I think it would be kind of cool to have one representative from each region give a short version of the story. And sorry, I didn't call you, but Franz, if you can do a short version of yours, because I feel like you both chased an eclipse and also escaped from something at the same time, which was quite cool. And then Hannah and Laura, oh, I guess when Laura gets back, let's see if we can get like a representative from each region to just share to the whole group. I think that'd be fun. Okay, I'll be about 30 more seconds. And everyone will come back in. Laura, so I totally just sprung this on. Hannah, how do you feel about just choosing a representative for your region just to share to the larger group? Just an exemplary story. I nominated Franz for my region. And then Hannah, if you can pick one, but just a short version just to give people a taste of what different experience
Yeah.
like.
Bob Burgess from our side had a really great story. I mean, they all had really great stories, but
Okay, so let's do Franz from Mexico, Bob from the Northeast region, and then Laura, do you have someone from the Texas region?
Um, maybe can I pick after hearing the other two to kind of fill in the experience?
That sounds cool. All right, then, Franz, I'm throwing you in. You go ahead and start us off.
Okay, thank you, and thanks everybody. First of all, I want to appreciate the effort everybody's from this team has been putting in. Had it not been for the 30-page guide and joining these sessions, there's no way I would have taken as spectacular or as good pictures as I ended up. I ended up in this Durango Sierra. Now this is between Mazatlan and Torreon. Torreon was a big NASA place originally, and of course Mazatlan. But looking at the cloud forecast and everything, we ended up deciding that the Sierra of Durango, which is about a 20-minute drive from the city of Durango, was the cleanest, clearest place, and it exactly that's what it ended up being. It was so dry though, and so clean and so spectacular. A forest fire actually was beginning around us, and it was slowly encroaching to the direction where we were, the smoke at least. I had already set up the equipment, and we were starting to take the first pictures of first contact, and I had to tear everything down and move upwind away from the forest fire. And with just 13 minutes before totality, I was able to set up again the main camera and a second one, and started taking pictures. But I ended up taking exactly the plan. I had the plan printed out in a big sheet and with exposures and everything, and it ended up over 3,000 pictures. The sky was completely blue, without any clouds whatsoever, and it was just unbelievably clear because we were at 2,400 meters above sea level with very dry conditions. So there was almost, we felt nothing between us, the moon, and the sun.
I think everyone deserves an award for escaping a wildfire and setting up in 14 minutes to spare, which is incredible. And I've never heard anything like that. And Franz, it was your first total solar eclipse.
It was my first. It was I did the annular in October, but I bought additional equipment because I realized there was no way I was gonna be able to cover properly the total solar eclipse with the original idea. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. I love that
Thank
story.
you.
I think that's going to stay with me. I had to fly into Durango and take a 4-hour bus. So I know the landscape you're talking about, and it is rugged out there. It is, yeah, it was definitely not a good place to be stuck in a fire. Bob, where are you? Oh yeah, would you like to share next? Go for it.
So the story I told in my group was that I'm I think the easternmost participant in this project, from New Brunswick, Canada, so the east coast of Canada, just over the border from Maine. And our province is in April is generally cloudy, like almost every day in April is cloudy. And so I expected that we just have to just bite the bullet and travel to see an actual solar eclipse, like 2026 or something. But by some miracle, it was a perfectly clear day in the town that we were in the middle of the province. And so we set up. We got there early. We set up early. We just sat there talking to the other people that were there, and had the experience of a lifetime. It was my first solar eclipse, and it was amazing. And I got some great pictures. I did some well, of course I submitted all the raw photos to you guys. Did some processing on my own, put them on my own social media, and people loved them, that kind of thing, of course. But oh yeah, and afterwards there was a presentation by Chris Hadfield, that we went to, that was right in the arena in the little town where we were in the middle of the province. So that was the icing on the cake. So it was a great day.
Bob, I just realized we might be the coast to coast sandwich, because I was on the beach at Mazatlan. I was the very first west landfall location. You were the last landfall before the shot went off. So hey.
Well, I think the last that in this project, but I think it also crossed some of Newfoundland as well.
I wonder if you have any volunteers out there. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Laura, do you have a volunteer you want to nominate?
Yeah, I'm going to have Jessie McKenna share her story.
Hi, everyone. I ended up taking the train from Detroit down into St. Louis with an intention of driving about 2.5, 3 hours southeast of St. Louis. I had painstakingly researched the area where I could get the most totality and a better location. On my way to my first choice location, I passed by a tiny little backcountry cemetery, and I kind of got the idea that it'd be kind of cool to do it in the cemetery and have a cemetery landscape. And I'm a genealogist, so that was kind of my thing. I got to my chosen location. I didn't really like it. I ended up driving another, several hours through Missouri, down into one of the Cape towns. I can't remember the full name. It was big long name. I saw more cemeteries in Missouri than I have in all of my whole year here doing genealogy stuff, but I got drawn back to that first cemetery that I passed by. It was in a little town called Apple Creek, and not wanting to risk any of the traffic trying to find a place to stay for the night, I slept in the car in the cemetery, did some night photography, and tried to update all of my settings for my computer software to run the program, to run all the shots for the project. For whatever reason, the program was not accepting any of my changes. It wasn't running my test shots like it did before. So I ended up scrapping that. The day of, I set up in the cemetery with 3 cameras, one on a star mount that I had borrowed. The other was on the mount from the project, and that's what I was going to do the project photos with. And then I had another setup just to do the landscape. Unfortunately, what happened is just a few minutes before totality, thank God I was standing right next to my cameras, because the mount from the project broke and my camera started to fall. I was able to catch it before it hit anything. But I kind of was frantically trying to figure out how I can get the shots for everything. I scrapped doing my own shots and just favored the project shots, but I was having to do it on my camera that was on the star tracking mount, which wasn't calibrated correctly because I couldn't get it to work either. So I managed to get all of the shots for the project, but the orientation is all off because I was constantly fighting the tracking mount that wasn't set up correctly. It just was kind of like a comedy of errors, and it just everything that went wrong, it still ended up being an absolutely beautiful experience. I oftentimes just have the feeling that I'm somewhere that I need to be because I need to be there for reasons maybe unknown to me, or they just make themselves known. What happened before all of this, a woman stopped by in the cemetery because she saw all of my stuff set up. She wanted to ask my opinion to make sure she had the correct filter, because the shop in St. Louis told her she wanted the filter to protect her camera for the Eclipse, and they sold her a polarizing filter and not a solar filter. And so I very sadly had to tell her that she didn't have the correct filter. But as she kind of walked away, I stopped her because I did have a film that I'd used for a presentation the week before at a library. Was able to cut her off a piece. She came back later and said that it worked absolutely beautifully, saved her camera, saved her experience. And there was another gentleman who ended up observing in the cemetery with me, and he had intended on putting his cell phone on top of his vehicle to video record it. And when I asked if he had a filter, he of course said he didn't, but because my son canceled the trip last minute, I had a filter that I was able to give to him. So regardless of whether or not I was able to get everything for the project done correctly, I don't know. But for whatever reason, that's why I was drawn there, was able to help a couple of other people, and still got to really enjoy an absolutely beautiful eclipse.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And again, it just always amazes me that it ends up becoming the human experience. Like after all of the tech and all of the equipment, when it comes down to the 4 minutes or whatever you're in there, it ends up being either you personally as a human or you with a group of other humans, or yeah, that's what it is. Wow. Oh, go on. Okay, so in awe. Okay, sorry, Laura, we took a longer the agenda than we had planned, but thank you everyone for sharing. I think that was very special. All right, I think it is time for updates on the project. Ooh, okay, who is going to talk about this part?
Okay, so next we'll just give you a couple updates. I'm going to have Hannah share a little presentation or a slide that she showed to some team members. I mean, the NASA citizen science leaders, new and those who are proposing to do citizen science with NASA. So Hannah, are you ready to show those?
There we go. There's the mute button. Sorry, I was on the wrong slide. So this is what I presented to NASA's citizen science, basically. Going from the top left results. This is an HDR photograph taken by someone who also does digital content creation. And so they make videos about astrophotography and about how to do HDR images. I say how to do HDR because I actually have no idea myself. So it is something I want to learn someday. But this is just kind of a recap about the project. So we have that wonderful photograph, or well, HDR image, so stacks of images basically. And Nestronomy was kind enough to upload it to Wiki Commons. And that means that this photograph in particular can be used so long as they are credited by anyone, however they want, so long as they don't change it too much. And you can find more information at that QR code. So we recruited, including the Python team members, including, you know, the machine learning people, more than 500 members. And that is as of April 2024. All of this is pretty much as of April 2024. We have had already more than 200 uploads of data, which has added up to more than 1,000 gigabytes, almost 1,100 gigabytes. Our communities are thriving with nearly 2,000 people total. And so, as you know, as you've probably been tagged by multiple emails about this meeting in particular, you'll know that we have the Mega Volunteers listserv, the Stars listserv, and the from 2017 Eclipse Megamovie listserv. We sent out 77 of our 3D printed tracking mounts to participants who needed them. We are very sorry to hear about the ones that did not perform as well in the field, but we're keeping that in mind should you know, any kind of project like ours move forward. We'll be able to give them that feedback about the materials and everything. We recruited the 3 people, one of whom I just spoke about. Did you want me to go through all of them, Laura, really quick?
Were you done with that last slide? I thought there was something else that was on there. No.
We recruited 3 people for the project, Nestronomy, who I spoke about this HDR. Nebula Photos was another one of them that I found on YouTube. And Professor Nixie is very prominent across social media platforms and also on TikTok.
Yeah, you could show the next slide. Let's see.
We recognized that we had 3 categories of volunteers, or in terms of experience level more than anything. We had the advanced photographers who were coming to us, teaching us how to take flats and darks and teaching us about bias frames and, you know, making suggestions that ultimately led to the photography guide. And they helped us cultivate the photography guide. So they provided instructional resources and included all the information about flats, darks, bias frames, and what we are calling calibration shots. We had the amateur astronomers or nighttime photographers. So these people were already very skilled at taking photographs at night of the sky, of stars, of objects, that kind of thing. But, you know, they perhaps lacked eclipse photography experience or know-how. So we were able to supply some of that for them coming in. And then we had first timers like me who they had a camera and they wanted to take pictures of the eclipse and they wanted to, you know, contribute to NASA science. So from all of this, we created the gold standard of exposures to kind of make it as easy as possible to disseminate the kind of information that we had to disseminate, which was very complicated and technical, but I think the gold standard really did help. We engaged over a total of more than 16 hours. We say 16, but it was more than that, even just a little bit. We had 5 different paths of getting your guys' questions answered. We had the listserv and Discord, and those kind of were on the same level a lot of the time. We had a lot of really great activity from communities asking questions, answering questions across listservs and throughout the Discord. We had our website, including the frequently asked questions, which I hope were of some service to you guys, our photography guide, and the meetings like these, including office hours where you could come in and ask questions before the meetings.
Great, thank you, Hannah. That's great. So there are our results, and kind of how we got there, and really how we got there ends up being all about you. So I do want to take this moment to just say thank you from the bottom of my heart, for all that you did, all the practice. You know, you didn't get to hear everybody from each of the rooms, but we heard a lot about how hard you worked and how much practice you did before totality. A lot of you moved to new locations to find a clear sky. You spent the time and effort to get to these places. You spent your, you know, you had these experiences. You paid for your travel to go there. You brought your cameras and multiple cameras. You borrowed or rented extra mounts, thankfully. So also, so I want you to know that really we understand that the heart of this project it is the work that you all did, and how very, very grateful we are. We are we are working to officially thank you on our website. And what we're trying to make sure of is that many, as you heard, some, or maybe some of you didn't hear, but you know, clouds were a problem for a lot of people and some people couldn't move. But we still want to recognize all the hard work people did to get to the path of totality with your cameras. And another story you didn't hear with my team is that the clouds parted just at the time that the eclipses, just at the time of eclipse. But that wasn't true for everyone. Some people weren't able to get into Mexico for some weird reasons that they had not anticipated. Some folks, you know, were driving to Texas. It was just too windy and too hard to take their RVs there. But they had helped in putting together the photography guide. And so the next step is we asked for those of you who were able to get photographs and upload the photographs. Of course, there we asked, you know, how do you want to be represented? How do you want to be acknowledged by the project? And so we're working on that, but we want to also make sure that people who didn't upload data but were part of our process for getting to where we got with the photography guide, for example, and testing, that they also get recognized in some way. So Hannah has worked with me on a survey that's almost ready to put out to those who just couldn't make it, so that we make sure we have a place to recognize that group as well. And then we had some other deadlines for some other projects. So we haven't kind of gotten you all out our little thank you gifts, but those are coming as well. So just know that we've been thanking you behind the scenes, and you'll be thanked for the next probably 3 months coming forward. So I sent out that email, and I'm now saying this on Zoom, and we'll just keep acknowledging you and putting your information on our website that you want us to put up there. So,
Laura, there's a question in the chat if we're going to have another Megamovie like we did in 2017.
right. So the answer is yes. I did not promise NASA that we would, because that's a different step than what we're doing to do the science. But it is an engaging step, and it's a step we want to do. Once we get the HDR images put together from all of your data, with the algorithm that we feel comfortable with. We tried already to use the algorithm that we used in 2017, meaning our Python code that we have. We tried to use that. Juan Carlos Martinez Oliveras, he ran that code with his images after he calibrated them, and it didn't work the way it worked for the 2017 images. So he's trying to figure out what that is all about. And so then we will, once we have something that is going to work with all the data, then we will be making those high dynamic range, high HDR, high dynamic range images like the ones you saw on Hannah's slide. And then we will be basically subtracting them to see what is changing and moving in those images. Meanwhile, we will also be starting to put together the movie. So it takes time. Also, we have a lot more data than we had last time in terms of the calibration frames. And so that adds an extra processing step. I know that Juan was sitting down with one of, with Igor, their tech programmer, to look at all of your data, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, to kind of get a sense, besides a lot, you told us kind of whether you thought the data was going to work for us or not. And so I did want to share with you a graphic. So let me do it. And I'm sorry if my voice is kind of harsh. I'm actually sick today, but and stayed home. But I was like, I can't miss this meeting. So please bear with my crackling voice. So I'm gonna share this.
While you're pulling it up, Laura, we can answer this question in the chat. Will/can we be apprised of any publications that come out of these data and potentially have access to those papers? And the answer is yes, but it would just take time. So I think this is where the Discord and the news, the listservs that we have for the different levels of volunteers is our access point. And this is where we just want to make sure you guys stay in the loop. So anything that we end up being able to publish or do or whatever, every step, we are going to keep you guys all apprised of it. But there just may be blocks of time when something's not working or we're busy scrolling away back here and you don't hear from us for a little bit. It doesn't mean we've forgotten about you. It just means that it's cooking away in the stove, right? Boiling away, bubbling. I just wanted to answer that. Okay, go ahead, Laura.
Yeah, and just to add to that, the goal is to continue our monthly meetings. We might just be inviting guest speakers in, which we'll tell you a little bit more about later. And so that's one way that you can stay apprised of the project's research. For example, Juan Carlos will be giving a talk based on the work he's done so far, which is not tons, but some, in a couple weeks at the American Astronomical Society in, I think that's in Minnesota. So we can, at one of our webinars, he can present on that talk, for example. And you could start to see, we'll start showing you kind of the algorithms we're using, the papers we're using. If you're really interested in what research papers are you using, what algorithms are you using to do the HDR, you can follow along if you feel confident in that kind of skill set. So we definitely will keep you involved. And this time we really did get funded to do science, so we will definitely be doing science. And I wanted to show this slide because these are, so of all of the uploads that you all submitted, from your descriptions, there were for sure 45 of you who it seemed like you did get everything we asked for. And so, and here's a graph, a plot of the 45 of you. So some of you are here. We already just heard from you. So that may be, you can see there's also all the way from Mexico all the way to Canada. So we filled the range, and there's likely a lot more. There's 113 people and 200 cameras. And so these 45 folks had clear skies and got everything that was in the photography guide. And then the others will, I'm sure some of that data is good as well. We just, and I haven't actually we haven't looked at this data either. This is just based on your reporting. So, but this is what I sent to NASA. This is part of our annual report. Okay, so updates, right? So the other update that I wanted to give relates to the machine learning aspect. So one of the things we thought would be really fun and innovative and potentially useful would be to use machine learning in this project. It's all the buzz. I'm sure you've heard those words in the public, or artificial intelligence or AI. So I'm going to have Troy Wilson talk to you briefly about what we did this semester with a professor here at Sonoma State University and some of the students that we worked with. Troy, do you want to give just kind of an overview of
Yes, hello. I'm just gonna give you guys sort of, like Laura said, a high level overview because our intention is to have Dr. Grimm and Gill and the students come in and present to you the information themselves. But essentially, what we did was we gave them all a lot of the 2017 data, and we presented them with the task of, can you create a machine learning model that, given any image, identify the phase of the eclipse? So given some image, is it a total eclipse? Is it not an eclipse at all? And what this is going to help us do for this and hopefully for the 2024 data is be able to quickly categorize all of that information so that we don't have to do it ourselves, so that when it comes down to really doing the post-processing on it, um, we are just concerned with the full eclipse images, and we can quickly uh, we can quickly pick those out of the larger sum.
Yep. Thank you, Troy.
Of course.
So as Troy mentioned, these students who are no longer students, they've all graduated, so they're out in the world as computer scientists, and so they've learned some really great image tools, image analysis tools, and they were interested in sharing their work. They presented a poster at the symposium, the research symposium that we hold here at our university. I was so impressed with the work they did. And I think the code that they generated will be really useful as well. So in terms of the HDR images, I talked a little bit about that we have this algorithm that we used last time, but that algorithm was based on not creating high dynamic range images from one single set of it's from images from photographs from one camera, but rather putting together multiple cameras images so when you look at the Megamovie from 2017, what we did is we combined camera photographs across a state into one high dynamic range image. And then we kind of did a what's called a what's the word, where you basically dropped the the photograph near the coast of Oregon and added another one that was kind of at the end of Oregon. And so that approach was very different than what we're trying for this eclipse, where we are really looking at you all provided us these different exposures, many different exposures from one camera, and we'll be making high dynamic range images from that one camera. We can still do what we did last time as well, but there's not as much reason to do that, except maybe in some of the clustered areas that still might be of interest. So we're working on that. It will take some time. But as Hannah said, you might have heard, they did do some kind of artistic versions of making those HDR images. How many of you, if you could use the reaction button at the bottom of your screen, how many of you have ever done an HDR image out of Eclipse images before? If you could put raise your hand. I love it. Okay, we've got 3 of you. Do any of you want to talk about how you do that at all, and kind of some of the things that you think about? Like Jennifer, would you like to share, or George?
There was actually a book, Lessons from the Masters, various astrophotography tricks. And so there was one by Fred, I forget his last name. He's a Eclipse master, and he's got a separate
funny.
website. Yeah, and he went through the whole procedure. And it does take Photoshop, and I had an old version of Photoshop, CS2, and it was okay with that. And I did produce a very good HDR, and I think I uploaded it to the Discord site. I tried to use the same procedure for the 2024, and as I said in the breakout session, there were high wispy clouds. And so after about the first minute, I got a lot of reflection. So it didn't work. I could not get a good HDR of the total 3 minutes from that set of images, but it did work fine for 2017. And it was step by step to do it, a lot of manual processing, but it did work perfectly. And if you look at the Discord site, I think you've got my final product, which was pretty outstanding.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. John or Jennifer? Jennifer, I see you're unmuted.
So I found Astronomy's videos online and a couple others that did similar techniques. And so I've spent spare hours since the eclipse kind of stacking and restacking and trying to get to reducing the edge effects because I had high wispy clouds and a kind of a combination of the struggles that many of you had. And so I have a set of, I believe there's 9 images in my stack for the corona, and kind of went through that process and did it twice and came out with something that I think shows the corona really well. I struggled a bit with the edge of the sun, getting my pictures aligned really well. It did take Photoshop. I'm an old hand in Photoshop from back when I was in grad school making maps with Photoshop for my dissertation. So that's kind of where I started, and I evolved to photography from there because Photoshop already made sense. So I was really grateful that there were stacking videos out there, and you know, if anybody wants to kind of pool time and see if we can help each other improve our HDR for our own personal stacks, I'm willing to pitch in and work with people, see if we can help each other out.
Nice. That's great. And John, do you want to add to anything that George and Jennifer have said?
Sure. I used a program that I've been using for quite some time, an astrophotography program called PixInsight, which has several really good tools for HDR imaging. And I did a nice stack. I forget now how many images were in the stack, and processed it with the PixInsight HDR tools and sent it to you, and you did take it. So I guess it's okay.
Yes. Yes.
It really did turn out very nicely. It also appeared on all my social imaging sites.
Nice. Do you all have your HDR? Like, can you share it right now, or is it are they like far away in the depths of your drives?
I'll look.
Jennifer, did you raise your hand?
Yeah, I can share mine, I think.
That'd be cool. Yeah, I think people would like that.
So this is the one I'm working on at this point. This is twice through the I think it's the pellet process that they described, where you stack the images, create a blur, subtract the blurred image, and then add it back in, and apply that image as a multiply, and then go through that process again, and it pulls out a lot of the definition. So this was a stack that included images from about 1/400th of a second up through, I think my longest one was 1.3 seconds. And this is the latest one that I've come up with. You can kind of see that there are artifacts around the edge where my edges didn't stack very well. So I'm looking to try and refine that for my own. I have a collage I'm planning. And then the other
It looks
one,
really good though. It looks very similar to the one that Hannah was showing.
thank you. This is about the 4th time I tried stacking them, so it's gotten better each time. Sorry about my squirrely windows right there. I was gonna share one more. If somebody else wants to share, I could come back to it. I'm sure. See if I can get it. My Lightroom is slow when I have lots of things open.
Yeah. John, are you ready to jump in or?
Yeah.
Okay, why don't you take, can we? We'll come back to you, Jennifer.
You're good.
I couldn't find the HDR image, but this is the stacked image prior to HDR. Whoops, that's not me though.
That was me. I can share mine.
Yeah, there it is. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the stacked image prior to doing the HDR. I'd have to really search around for the HDR, but you've got the HDR.
Nice. Wow, the prominence is so bright. It's really cool.
Let me see if I can find how to unshare.
I think I might be able to help you.
Yeah. Good, thank you.
Yeah, and then I can just stop sharing.
Let me see if I can share mine. This is from 2017, but at least shows you the procedure that I had used. So that was the 2017. I was trying to use the same effort for the 2024. Couldn't get anywhere close to this.
Wow, yeah, that's stunning.
And there's Regulus here.
Did anybody? Oops, sorry. Wasn't sure if I was on mute or not. Did anybody manage to get the comment?
No.
I have
I couldn't
seen
find it in mine.
pictures.
I actually took a wide field shot of the sun with a Canon camera and a 35mm lens, and with some processing, the sun is totally eclipsed and overexposed in one corner of the image. In the other corner of the image, I was able to identify several stars and just a little bare speck that was the comet. So I did it. It's not visually impressive, but it's there.
That's awesome.
Wow, that's great. All right, so we'll keep this to an hour today. So we like I said, our next we'll be bringing in guest speakers. I did have one last kind of question for you all. If you can raise your hand if you saw the Aurora Borealis during the big storms, then we can get a sense of how many of you got to see them. I'll raise my hand as well.
I lived in Alaska, so I saw a lot of them. We were too far south in California.
I saw them here in California. It was crazy.
I saw them.
We're in San Diego.
Oh yeah, it's a little harder there.
I saw them and took it with my cell phone and also my Canon camera, the same I used for the Eclipse photos. So I've got those.
I've got pictures of the Northern Lights behind saguaro cactuses.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's great, Rob. I want to see those. So I will we'll be sending out some information about the Aurorasaurus project, which we sent in Discord already, but I just want everyone to know that that project exists if you're in kind of the northern latitude states, and maybe we'll be seeing aurora. They're always looking for photographers to send them really good high quality images of the aurora. So we'll send you more information out about that. And we might have a guest speaker, or we'll just route you to their Zoom webinars.
They also, just really quick, have ways that you can help their project just by like going on to Twitter and looking at social media and saying like, oh yeah, that's a real aurora. And then you check it off as real. So you can participate even if you don't have a picture.
Yep. All right. Well, we will be in touch. Thank you again. It was really great to reflect on our experiences with you and share the project outcome so far with you all. So we'll be in touch.
Thank you for all the work you're doing.
Thank you, Laura. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Darlene.
All right, everyone. Be
Thank
well.
you,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Good night now.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.